Tonight, we're following a lot of news regarding data centers in our area. There's a huge meeting happening tonight on one of the biggest data centers in state history. That's going up in Bucks County. PA lawmakers also agreed to a new requirement on data centers. And I talked to a state lawmaker about what it took to even do that and why he thinks Pennsylvania is still behind in regulating these facilities. So let's go in depth tonight. There's a really big meeting happening right now. The public is getting its chance to weigh in on what Governor Shapiro described as the largest investment in Pennsylvania history. Amazon is investing $20 billion on two massive data center complexes in Pennsylvania, one of which is being built in our area in Falls Township in Bucks County. Here it is on the map. You see it here. Tonight, the public is hearing from a number of key officials who are involved with this massive project, from Amazon, PECO, and the PA Department of Environmental Quality. They're presenting, and they're also taking some questions from residents. We're certainly going to monitor that. If you don't remember this project, here's a rendering of the facility. So it's going up at the Keystone Trade Center at what was once a U.S. steel mill. It includes up to 10 data center buildings, and Amazon has also requested to install more than 280 natural gas and diesel-fired generator engines. This is huge. The company says the data center will advance its artificial intelligence technology. On Sunday, Governor Josh Shapiro signed a brand new state budget into law after lawmakers hashed out a deal. You heard some of what's included in the budget, save for Philadelphia schools, from NBC 10's Lauren Make just a few minutes ago. But something else was put into this budget. Data center developers are now facing a key new regulation. They're now mandated to report the total amount of electricity or other forms of energy consumed by the data center and the total amount of water, including water used for cooling. They were not required to do that before. Today, I interviewed State Representative Greg Scott about how the state has approached data centers and about his opposition to a specific proposal in Montgomery County in Plymouth Township. We've talked a lot about this one. It's drawn a lot of criticism from residents there. We're going to have more on that in the days ahead because there's actually a meeting coming up. But Representative Scott told me why he and his colleagues worked through the weekend to try to get this specific requirement into the state budget for energy and water reporting.
My concern is that the rules have not caught up with this new industry. You know, data centers today, and you can see them all across Pennsylvania, across the country, quite frankly, they're consuming more electricity, more water, and require more infrastructure than municipalities had envisioned when many of these zoning rules were implemented, right? So the communities just simply haven't had the skill set or the opportunity to catch up with their zoning ordinances, which is why in Harrisburg, my colleagues and I in the State House have put forth a multitude of measures that would allow municipalities to pause review of these applications, give them some breathing room to create ordinances that will bring them up to 2026 instead of having ordinances that are so old, and create a standard that is equal across the Commonwealth.
Do you think that state lawmakers are recognizing the urgency around this, particularly if so many people are worried about the implications of these hyperscale data centers in their communities?
It's a great question. Listen, Pennsylvania was not prepared. We simply were not prepared for this onslaught. And I'm going to be very clear, we were not. However, since then, to say that we've done nothing is not necessarily true. In the State House, we've passed a number of measures that will help curb, if these things are enacted into law, will help curb some of this stuff and also make sure that it's responsible and transparent and that we start getting the data we need to evaluate these projects on their merit. I'll also say this, because the Senate's inability to get anything done, the Pennsylvania State Senate that is, we've also made sure it was a condition of us passing a budget this past weekend that some of these requirements are codified in our budget bills. So for example, data centers will have to report their energy uses. What type of energy? We'll have to know what about the energy uses? Where are they pulling the water? What are the sources of those water? They'll also have to start reporting the quality and conditions of the water after it's going through their particular system. These are big wins. It's so, by far, it is not a done deal. We need to do more. We need to do more, and I'm going to be the first one to tell you that. But to say that we've done nothing isn't necessarily true. on the legislature as a whole. The Pennsylvania House has been hard at work getting some stuff done. The Pennsylvania Senate needs to get back to work and pass some of these measures.
So let's talk about enforcement. If the data centers fail to comply with reporting the energy use and the water, they will be fined $10,000 a day until they do so. We're monitoring the Falls Township discussion. We will certainly continue to track these data center proposals around our area as well. And tell us, do you feel local and state lawmakers are doing enough to regulate them? And are there any topics you would like me to explore in depth? Let me know. You can scan the QR code.